across the northwestern Roman Empire, archaeologists have found about 116 small bronze objects, 12 faces, round holes, knobs at the corners. They were made for centuries. No Roman writer ever mentioned them. Nobody knows what they were for. The objects are made of bronze. They range in size from about 4 to 12 centimeters across. Each has 12 identical pentagonal faces, a regular dodecahedron, the Platonic solid, 5-sided faces, 3 meeting at each vertex. Each face has a circular hole cut through it to the hollow center. The diameters of the 12 holes are not identical. On most surviving examples, the holes vary in size, with some larger than others. The pattern of hole sizes is roughly symmetric across the object but is not the same on every dodecahedron found. At each of the 20 corner vertices, a small spherical knob protrudes outward. The knobs are decorative. They are not functional points. They sit too low to be feet, are too small to be grips, and are too rounded to engage with anything as a fastener. Most surviving dodecahedra are hollow, with wall thickness around 2 to 4 millimeters. They are cast bronze, sometimes with surface decoration along the edges of the pentagonal faces. About 116 of these objects have been catalogued in museum collections across Europe. Some are in fragments, some are intact. The intact ones are remarkably similar to each other, suggesting a coherent design tradition rather than independent local invention. The geographical distribution is the first strange thing about them. Fine spots cluster in the northwestern Roman provinces, Roman Britain, Gallia Belgica, Germania Inferior, Germania Superior. Modern equivalents, northern France, Belgium, the Netherlands, the Rhine Basin in Germany, parts of Switzerland, and Britain. No dodecahedron has been found in Italy, none in Greece, none in North Africa, none in the Eastern Mediterranean. They are an artifact of the Roman frontier, specifically the northern Roman frontier, and not of the Mediterranean Roman heartland, where the find context is recorded. Dodecahedra have been found in Roman military sites, in civilian but military-adjacent settlements, in coin hoards suggesting they were considered valuable enough to bury alongside money, and occasionally in graves. Datable contexts place the dodecahedra between roughly the 1st and the 4th century of the Common Era. The earliest known examples are from the late 1st or early 2nd century. The latest are from the late 4th century, after which they vanish from the archaeological record. 3 centuries of production, across multiple Roman provinces, with remarkably consistent design, and not a single Roman text describes them. The Romans were not silent about their tools and devices. Vitruvius' De Architectura, written in the late 1st century BCE, describes the surveying instruments, the building tools, the construction methods of his time. Frontinus, 2 centuries later, describes Roman aqueducts, military camps, water distribution systems, surveying. Pliny the Elder's natural history catalogues metalwork, ceremonial objects, religious implements. The agricultural and military manuals of the late Empire describe an enormous range of practical and ceremonial gear. None of them describe a dodecahedral bronze object. If the dodecahedra were a known and routinely used tool, the silence is unusual. If they were a known religious or ceremonial object, the silence is striking. If they were rare or guild-specific or local tradition objects, the silence is more explainable, but the geographical and temporal spread is too wide for them to be locally idiosyncratic. The Romans were not silent. The dodecahedra are. Since the first dodecahedron was catalogued in the late 18th century, multiple theories have been proposed. None has produced a scholarly consensus. Surveying instrument. The varying hole diameters could be used to sight known size objects at known distances, calculating range from apparent size. Plausible mathematically, weak archaeologically. Roman surveying tools are usually heavily worn, and dodecahedra often are not. Candle holder. The hollow interior could hold a candle. The geometry can support a hot candle. Plausible mechanically. Weak archaeologically, most dodecahedra do not show wax residue or soot, and the variable hole sizes are not necessary for a candle holder. Knitting tool. In the early 21st century, a knitter named Anne Roper proposed and demonstrated that a dodecahedron with knobs at the corners could be used to knit small fingered gloves quickly, wrap yarn around the knobs, hook through the holes, produce a tube of knitting. The reconstruction works. Plausible practically, weak archaeologically. There is no textile residue on surviving dodecahedra, and Roman knitting at this scale is not otherwise attested. Religious or divinatory object. The hollow interior could hold a small offering. The geometric form has Pythagorean associations. Plausible culturally. Weak archaeologically. There is no associated cult inscription, no textual reference, and dodecahedra found in graves do not show the placement patterns typical of established cult goods. Gauge for pipe diameters. A plumber needing to verify lead pipes match specifications could pass them through holes of known size. Plausible practically. Weak archaeologically, the specific pipe sizes that would match dodecahedron holes don't cleanly correspond to standard Roman pipe fitter sizes. Geometric teaching aid. The Platonic solids were known to Roman-educated mathematicians. A bronze dodecahedron could illustrate the concept. Plausible educationally. Weak archaeologically, the find contexts are not educational. Military rangefinder, dice, gaming piece, mace head, surveyor's plumb, all proposed at various times, all with similar plausibility versus evidence problems. The honest summary: every theory accounts for some features and ignores others. None accounts for all the features simultaneously. The geographical concentration in the northwestern provinces, the variable hole sizes, the elaborate corner knobs, the textual silence, and the consistency of design across 3 centuries. 2 answers to the textual silence are usually offered. They were a guild secret. Roman trade guilds, collegiate, sometimes maintained closed knowledge. A specialist tool used by, say, military surveyors might not be publicly described in surviving literature. But guild secrecy explains absence in technical manuals. It does not explain absence in casual mentions, in legal records, in inscriptions, or in the vast surviving corpus of Roman texts. They were so common nobody bothered to describe them. The everyday objects of Roman life, bowls, lamps, sandals, are described, but rarely as the focus of a passage. They appear in passing mentions, in shopping lists, in inventories. Dodecahedra do not appear even in those passing mentions. The textual silence is unresolved. It is the strongest argument against the more practical theories. A candle holder or pipe gauge would be mentioned somewhere, and the strongest argument for either ceremonial/restricted use, or a function whose Latin name we have not recognized as referring to these objects. Strip the speculation, and the verifiable facts are these. Around 116 bronze dodecahedra have been catalogued from across the northwestern Roman provinces. They date from the 1st to the 4th centuries of the Common Era. They share a coherent design: 12 pentagonal faces, hollow, variable hole sizes, 20 corner knobs. No Roman text describes them. No theory of their function has produced a scholarly consensus. The Romans built aqueducts that still stand. They wrote treatises on surveying so detailed that modern archaeologists can reconstruct their methods step by step. They left behind names, dates, addresses, recipes, and complaints in graffiti on the walls of Pompeii. They also made about 116 small bronze geometric objects for 300 years, across a third of their empire, and either chose not to write any of it down, or used a name we no longer recognize. The dodecahedra sit in museum cases in London, Paris, Mainz, Bonn, and Geneva. They are some of the most carefully preserved Roman artifacts in European archaeology. Nobody knows what they were for.